Hello. In this video, we're going to explore Hubspot Lists and review all the list features that can help you make the most of HubSpot, including some features that you might not know about. We're going to look at this whole area here in lists and explain and explore each of the different elements. So why are we talking about this? Lists are a critical feature of HubSpot and very important for any kind of email marketing or sales systems. It provides you a chance to allocate contacts to email lists, who you want to email, to organize them based on advertising and ad groupings, to segment your audience in general, so that you can create automations that apply to certain lists, reports that are including only certain lists, ads, as I said, and other kinds of smart features inside email and landing pages as well. So there's a lot of areas that lists are important in. So this area of HubSpot is critical that you understand and can make the most of it. My name is Tristan, and I'm from Terrific, and we're HubSpot experts. I've been using HubSpot since 2015 for over 8 years, and have been a certified expert for over 3 years. I'm also a certified expert with Zapier and a range of other tools and software as well. So today we're going to go through HubSpot Lists, and we're going to explore all the elements of this section of HubSpot. And as I said in the opening, this is a really important part of HubSpot. To get here, we go to Contacts and then Lists, and we can see here the number of lists. This is just a demo account, so it's very limited amount of lists at the moment. Keep this pretty clean, but you can see here you might have quite a lot more lists. So we've got our total list here. Now we have this, what's the view section. So in the past, HubSpot Lists just used to be all your lists just in one long sort of line with a bit of extra information. Now HubSpot have added this ability to view, create views, certain views, much like they do with contacts as well. So we've done another video about this, comparing contacts views with lists. And you can see here we've got all these different views as little tabs. We can create and view other views with the filters, saving views, adding, renaming, everything like that. This logic and this system that exists for contacts also exists for lists now. So that's why we've got these tabs here. When you have a lot more lists, say you've got 100 lists, different lists, it's useful to create a certain view that will only show you that particular list. By default, it starts with these views here. We can see the All Lists view, the Unused Lists view. So these will be lists that haven't been updated in the last 60 days. We have recently deleted lists. And here's how we can create our first view. This is the example first view list that I've created previously. So that's this. We can also move these lists around. And I believe the list you move to the far left will be your default list, much like we have with contacts. So you can have your tables, you can have your views organized in a way that you can see just the list that you want to see. We can search for more lists here in case we've got other lists saved, views, I should say. And we can also click on and see all the different views that we've previously saved. So at the moment, this is the only one owned by me. And we can click here and change and see the other object types and owners for these views. But we won't be using that much at this point. So here are all the tabs for the different views. And then here we also have folders. So we can also organize things under folders. So for example, you could have just your sales lists in a folder, or you could organize certain regions or certain objectives or even campaigns into a folder, like so. And then when we have our list, we can then move these to a folder like so, Australia, and they will stay in this all lists category here. The folders just offer us another way to keep things organized into just those areas. And we can see here we have a column with Australia as well. So that's the folders, very easy to understand, I think. And then we have the lists here, the list views. So let's take this another step. So We go down and we can see here we've got all creators. So we can see here, these are the people that created. So I can filter it and just show the ones that I've created. I can add a filter and just look at those active versus static lists. So in HubSpot, there's two kinds of lists. Lists are either active when they're generated by where you've created a filter, a certain selection of filters that you want to apply to that list. So we can have a look at an example here where we have on the left-hand side here the filters that are running. And basically whenever we have a contact that has a country region is equal to Australia, persona is equal to this persona that we've got set up here, or we have a group, region is equal to New Zealand, and the persona is equal to content creator, for example, then those people will be added to this list. This is an active list. Whereas a static list is a list that doesn't change. So a static list is a list of contacts that have been uploaded here. We originally created the list with this filter, country region equals Australia, but then this is a static list, so this won't keep updating. These contacts will remain the same here, no matter what happens in the system. This can be ignored, basically, once the list is generated, unless a person, a user, removes people from the list or adds people from this list. So a static list allows that flexibility, where you can add and remove people from a list, whereas the active list is going to be automatically changing based on these values, these properties in HubSpot. So if a contact becomes something else, not Australia, becomes another country, and their persona is CEO, then they would be automatically removed from this list immediately. And a human doesn't have to do that. This is just done by HubSpot system. So that's our active and static list types. We've got other videos that go through that in a bit more detail. And then we have the different objects. So there's two kinds of lists you can create. When you create a list, first you've got the name, and then you can select active or static. And then you can also select the kind of list that you want to have. So we're going to create a list that's just the contacts, the individual contacts, or are we going to create a list that is specific companies instead? So we select that first, we select the kind of list we're creating, we add a name, and then we click next, and then we can generate or set up the list. So that is the object side of things. So if we want to just look at the contact lists created, I don't think I've set up a company list in this demo. No. So they're the filters. And we can also have these other filters as well. So we can filter based on name. So for example, we could look at just the lists that have, you can see my kind of naming convention here. I've got this AU when it's for Australian audiences, let's say. So we could have a list that just has -AU in the name, like this. We can apply that filter, and we can also apply other filters to that. So we could also have a list, we have a view or filters, which are based on any of these things. So 7-day change is how much has the list changed in 7 days, the number of contacts in that list. So we could say that it's changed by 6, or it's greater than, if it's grown by more than 100 or less than 100 or anything like that. We can select when it was created. So we could, for example, say any list that's been created in the last 100 days, they're the only ones we want to look at. We don't want to look at really old lists. We can organize it or filter it based on who the creator was. So we can just look at those lists created by me, for example. We can filter based on when the last record, the last contact or company was added to this list. So we can see the ones that have been updated, most recently, or we could say the last one that was updated this year is after the 1st of January, for example. We can add that in. Let me delete some of these though, just for this example that I'm showing you. We can say when the last record was removed and what date that was. We can say the exact date. So we can say is a certain kind of day. We can drop down, there's a lot of options here. We can say the last 90 days or whatever you need, last 60 days. You can also say is equal to a certain date. You can say is before a certain date, is after a date, is between two dates, is more than a certain amount of days, or a number of days from now, is less than a certain amount of days, So we want to say, for example, everyone in the last 50 days would be like this, or everyone that was updated more than 100 days ago, like this, or whenever any last record is known or unknown. We can look at when it was last updated, the list. We can do it based on list size. So we can say any list that has more than 1,000 records on it, or 100 records on it, 50 records on it, you know, whatever we want. There we go, greater than 40 records. We've got this list with 50. Greater than or equal to 50. Let's try that. There we go. And we can also, we did name, we can also do the kind of object. So if it's company lists or contact lists, and we can do whether it's read-only list, and whether it's used in how many other workflows or email campaigns or anything like that, mostly relating to workflows. Let's try this one. Let's have a look at this one. So now once we have these filters in place, obviously there's just one contact here, but maybe we want to have a look at this regularly, and then we can save this view. This is a HubSpot. What we're looking at here, the all list, is a HubSpot standard view, so we need to save as new, and we're going to call this the AU lists, let's say. And you can see here, I've gone through this in the other video, but you can see here that you can choose to make it shared with private or shared with everyone. If you share with private, it means that only you'll be able to see this list, and you can't really share the URL or show anyone else this list in their accounts. They won't be able to view it, or they can't find you. They can't find this list when they search. And if you share with everyone, then they'll be able to look for the list if you tell them where, you know, to look for it. They won't get any kind of notification, but you can also choose to copy the URL for this list and then share it with them as well. So we've got our AU list here. Let's imagine we want to make that default, so we can move that over to the left here. And we can see when we go to all views, we can see this list here as all views. We can also edit this list, rename it, manage the sharing, export, clone, delete from this all views page as well. So we've got our list, and we've been through all these filters. We've been through the saved view. We can always search lists as well. This sometimes can be even faster. Let's say it's a one-off thing you need to find. So you might just type in, like, let's say Sally or something like that. We've got a list with Sally in the name. We've got two lists with Sally in the name, interestingly. So then we can see, there we go. We can extend the size of these columns as well. We can see our two lists with Sally in the name. We can remove that. And then over here under actions, we have the option to export lists, and this will export a list of the lists, let's say. So you've got here the name that's going to export. You can choose the format like this, CSV, Excel, XLX, where it's going to send to. You can choose what you'd like to export. So we can export just the data that we see in this current view here, or we can export all the data that we have total in this list. And we click export, and then that'll then send us an email notification when it's ready to download that export. And we can also go to this exports notification section to view and download all our exports. So that's the actions, export lists, and then edit columns is another important one. So you might wish to edit the columns and get rid of or add some of the detail that's not here. For example, 7-day change is a nice one, which is quite a relatively new feature. So we can see which lists have changed in the last 7 days, by how much. And we can add or remove any other features here. Let's say folder is more important, so we want to move that up. And we want to move creator up here. We can save. Now the columns are now in a different order. And we can save this view. We want to call this our main view, let's say, whatever we like. And we can just move that here like this. So now we have it organized in the list order that we want. And we haven't got any filters on for this particular list because this is kind of our everything list, but we did save the view with the appropriate columns in place. So that's these two options here. We can see all the columns as you could see. We can move these columns around. We can reorder, sort the columns by clicking here, sort by alphabetical, sort by number, sort by groupings, just by hitting these little arrows. And we can also change the amount of lists we see per page. So if you have hundreds of lists, you might want to select this 100 if you have smaller amounts, and you can go between the lists like that. So this is a very high level, this is a very detailed overview of the lists index page. This is usually called the index page for the lists, and using the view functionality and making this index page as useful, taking full advantage of this page. I guess the other important thing we didn't get to exactly already is the create list button. We tried that, but also import. That takes you to the import section of HubSpot, where you can also import contacts as well. So this won't actually import lists per se, but it'll import the contacts or the companies into HubSpot. So that's a little shortcut button there. So that's it. Hope that's been useful. Please share any questions you have about HubSpot, about lists, about anything you want, and I'd be happy to help, and we can go into more detail in those videos. In the future, we'll talk more about creating lists and selecting the various filters you want to choose for active lists and how best to sort of manage those lists as well. So please feel free to subscribe to see when additional content comes out, and let me know what you think about this video and any other comments you've got. I'd be really happy to hear those and hear how we can improve these videos for you as well. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day. See you again soon.